Hello and welcome to another episode of the BorderlineDad podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. If you don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and depression. I have two kids, one with autism, one with dyspraxia. In starting this whole podcast journey, my initial goal was to share my experiences, my stories, my thoughts and feelings on things, and make other people feel not so alone. I know what it's like to feel absolutely, completely, utterly alone and misunderstood, and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I never want any other person ever to feel that way. So my goal is to do the best that I can to make that happen, to make people feel not so alone. Eventually, after a few months, I moved into other areas of mental health. I talk about self-care, I talk about triggers, I talk about a lot of different things, talk about various disorders. Now, I want mental health to be taken as seriously as a black eye, as serious as a broken bone, a burst appendix, something like that. I also want to erase the stigma around asking for help, reaching out to a friend or a family member or a professional. I want to thank you all for being here today. Whether it's your first time or your 1,000,000th time, I really do appreciate you being here. It means more to me than I could ever accurately express. I hope you enjoy the episode. And again, thank you for being here. So, this is another podcast without a blog. I find it easier to do that, but I'm going to have to write myself a little sticky note. I've tried recording this episode 3 times, and I keep dropping real names, and I don't want to do that. But this episode is about forgiveness, about attempting to understand, and just kind of moving on, you know. I have BPD, borderline personality disorder, due to childhood trauma. I am not going to get into all that trauma, but, you know, an example, my room was often a safe zone, you know, away from the bullies, away from my stepmother at the time, away from all the bullshit of the world, and away from my brothers. And quite often I would have to use my body as a human barricade to keep that door shut so my stepmother wouldn't bust it down, beat me, you know, get all up in my face. And she, you know, at the time, she was not good for my mental health, and she, I believe, was one of the main reasons why I have issues, why I have borderline personality disorder. One of the reasons. She's not the only reason, but anyway. So, when I turned 18, obviously, you guys, if you have listened to the past podcast, know I moved out, and I moved in permanently with my mom and stepdad. And I didn't care about my brothers or my stepmom or dad. I wanted nothing to do with them. And I held on to a lot of hate and resentment for years and years. And it eventually got to a point where I was too afraid to reach out, you know. I wanted to reconnect with my brothers, but I was way too afraid. And obviously that came back to bite me. But so I moved out, and 3 years later, almost 3 years later, when my son was born, I still had all those feelings, and I didn't want him to know about an entire side of my family. And I don't know, I had mixed thoughts about it, but I still had so many horrible memories, and raw emotions would come out, and I would have little flashbacks of things, and I just didn't want him to know them. And my dad and my ex-stepmom and even my mom, people had reached out to me and talked to me about how my son should know his uncles. How the uncles should know their nephews, their family, their blood, So eventually I think my two brothers who lived with my dad and stepmom at the time, stepmom mostly, but they came and visited. They met my son, both of them. And we didn't really keep in touch because I didn't care. I didn't give a shit. I've tried to forgive them, and I have. And I've tried to forgive my stepmom completely, but the truth is I am never going to be able to forgive or get over some of the things that she did. I can understand it, and I can forgive most of it. I can understand not wanting your kid to fail in school, so you nag them a bit, you punish them if they fail because you want to give them incentive not to fail. And I get that, and I'm very thankful for all the effort that she put into me, and all the good that she intended, the intentional good that happened, but I just, I don't know, I wanted to forgive her for most of what happened, and kind of try to see where she was coming from. It was very hard, and I still don't completely get it, but I wasn't innocent either, I guess. I still didn't deserve what happened to me. Anyway, so forgiveness. If you listened to my last podcast, as one of my brothers died. He passed away suddenly in 2018, and that was kind of the end of a really rough year for me. And real quick, when my daughter was born, I didn't think to tell him. I by the time my daughter was born, I was kind of at the stage where I was afraid to reach out, because I didn't want. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't want them to hate me, even though they had every right to. But anyway, in February of 2018, before my split, my divorce, and before my brother's death, my brother that had passed actually reached out to me and said that he wanted to catch up. He wanted to know my schedule. And I was working third shift at the time, and my life was falling apart. And because my ex-wife had abandoned us, she abandoned us twice. And so after the first time she left, I quit my job because I had to. I had to stay home with the kids, and I had already for all the shit they put me through, but I was afraid that they wouldn't forgive me for abandoning them, for not being there for them in the hard times, for just being the worst big brother on the planet, So I made excuse after excuse because I was terrified. And then, of course, in September, when he passed, I had reached out to my ex-stepmother. I had left a message on her voicemail, and I had told her how sorry I was for her loss, for not being there. And I wanted to reconnect. I wanted to catch up. And at the funeral, we had talked a bit. At the wake. And ever since then, we have really become good friends. My kids and her kids are both really good friends, play a lot, and my daughter especially is always asking to go over. Oh, they both are, but my daughter's very repetitive, So at the funeral, I had mentioned before, at the funeral, my ex-stepmother's family, her mom, her sister-in-law, her, whatever, everybody, cousins, just welcomed me back. I had essentially abandoned this entire family, and they just welcomed me back with open arms. And I just, I really, in that moment, forgave my brothers and my stepmother. Well, I had forgiven my brothers already, but I forgave my stepmother for everything. We've never fully talked about everything. We've had conversations about various aspects of what each of us did. She's even regretted some of the things that she did, but she was in a bad place mentally. She was with someone who was just not good to be with. They were very toxic, my dad, and that's what we kind of all believed. After she remarried, she just became so much happier and a completely different person. But I didn't know any of that because I didn't have any contact. I didn't have any contact with any of them. But so, that was it. I forgave everyone. Everyone forgave me. And it felt so good. Like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And it was too late to reconnect and apologize to the oldest of my younger brothers, I think. Second oldest of my younger brothers who had passed. And so I focused my efforts on rebuilding a relationship with my surviving brother. I, work on rebuilding some sort of relationship with my ex-stepmother, who now I consider a great friend. It's different. I've forgiven her for everything, but it's still hard for me. Even though I've forgiven, I still have memories, of those times, and it can be very hard. Excuse me. I cannot control my thoughts, my memories, my emotions most of the time. And so, like I said, while all is forgiven, that's all said and done, emotions still pop up. Memories, memories and just vivid flashbacks of everything that happened, vivid flashbacks of what caused my personality disorder, what caused my issues, or a part of it, I should say. So I forgave them, and they forgave me, and it was a beautiful thing. I want you to think about, something else that I've said, the 5-year rule I've mentioned a few times. Is it going to matter in 5 years? I want you to really, really think about anyone that's abused you, whether it's family, really, really close family, friends, coworkers, I don't know. And just, even though it is easier said than done, I want you to, this is going to sound weird, but for a quick, maybe 5 seconds, not too long, between 5 and 8 seconds or whatever. I want you to open up your mind to all the trauma and all the bad shit that's ever happened to you, and let it hit you all at once. Let it feel, get enraged, wind back the clock to that moment where you were being beat or you were being assaulted or whatever, and feel it for like 5 seconds, and then just fucking let it go. And that is so impossible, and everyone's situation is different. There are people I know who are listening to this who have had a lot worse than I ever could have, and they're still here. They're a fighter, a survivor, and I love them greatly. And after you've let all that rage and emotion and after you've flash back to that moment for 5 seconds, a short time, just really, really tense. When I say let it go, I want you to then take a deep breath and imagine, again, easier said than done, imagine that you didn't have those feelings. Imagine a fantasy world where, either nothing bad ever happened or you were truly 100% able to let go and be free. Be free of the trauma. Be free of the bad memories, the mental scars. Be free of the flashbacks. It's not possible, I don't think, overnight. I think to do that takes forever. And but I'm telling you, if you can find it in your heart to not only forgive, but truly forgive, 100%, wholeheartedly, no hard feelings, your hair doesn't stand up on the back of your neck, if you're able to completely forgive whoever hurt you and wipe it from your mind, like, yeah, whatever, it happened, big deal. But it's gonna feel so good. It's near impossible, but it's gonna feel so good if you can get there. I wish that getting to that place would magically get rid of all my problems, of all your problems, but the reality is that it won't. If you're listening to this and you've done the impossible and you can truly let go and forgive and move on, clear your mind and, just not even really, I'm trying to think of the words, I don't know, not let it bother you, if you, I can't speak because I haven't been through nearly half the stuff that you have, but from my own experience, like I said, feel that rage, feel that hate, and then just for pretend, just for fantasy, just imagine for a second what it might be like if you didn't have to worry about that stuff. If it wasn't in the back of your mind all the time. If you were able to completely, wholeheartedly let go and breathe, get those weights off your shoulders. If you're able to do the impossible, do all that, it's going to feel amazing. And then you can move forward. You can move past it, I still have learning to do, but let's say that you're in a relationship and you still have scars or some serious damage from your last relationship. Maybe it lasted a long time. Maybe it was your high school sweetheart. Maybe it was, whatever it was, whatever it was. And they ripped your heart out. And if you don't let go, if you don't fully relieve yourself of all the pain and suffering, And if you can't get those weights off your shoulders, you might not ever be able to actually move on. And your entire new relationship, there's always going to be a small part of you that's thinking about your ex or thinking about your past. And I'm not like that, because I got over that long time ago, before I met the woman I'm with now. But I know I know a girl who, I won't say who, but she, I don't know anymore, but in high school, I always talk about her exes to her new boyfriend. Oh, my ex always did this to me, my ex always did that. We weren't like best buddies, but I knew her, but anyway, so she never had much luck with relationships, and she would always blame, her past, and that's a big thing. That's a big thing to hold on to, regardless of how the situation is. If you can find it in your heart to forgive, and if you can take a deep breath and truly, not think about it, one day you're just going to stop thinking about it, and that's the day all the weight's going to come off. That's the day you're going to smile again, and if you're always concerned about your ex, or you're always concerned about stuff that happened in that time, you're just going to make yourself miserable. And I'm not talking to any one person in particular. I'm talking to anybody. Forgiveness is not an easy thing. I could never forgive my ex for the things that she's done to my son and my daughter. And I don't say our son, our daughter, because she does jack shit. She pays child support, but even that's a fight. Sometimes doesn't happen on time. It's sad, but when I think about her leaving, and when I thought about what I felt at the time, I also got to remind myself that I was literally on the edge. We were both on the edge, and we were just a hair away, and she just left first. So, but anyway, I don't blame her for wanting a better life. I don't blame her for, doing what she thought was right. Yeah, it's not, I can never forgive her for the way she did it, the way she scarred the kids mentally, the way that she damaged our family. I can't ever forgive her for that, because she's in my opinion, just a very horrible, selfish, self-centered person. And where I was able to forgive my stepmother, but not my ex-wife, you can not forgive and still move on, but it's always going to be in the back of your mind a little bit. And I know that might contradict what I've said this entire podcast, but I'm a very contradictory person. You do whatever you feel is right for you. If you absolutely cannot forgive the person, then I mean, I don't know. If you can not forgive the person and still be able to get that weight somehow off your shoulders. Oh man, I hate bodily functions like yawning, coughing. They're so disruptive. But if you're somehow able to get the weights off, and you're able to be free and not think about it anymore, great. The other thing you can do is you can forgive but never forget. There's a few ways you can go about it, I find the best way is to not think about it anymore, not think about the damage that it's done or what you had to go through as a result of it. I don't know, man, it's kind of confusing, it's hard, so I say it's impossible. You have to move on, you have to free your mind from that prison, but if you cannot forgive, there's always going to be a little part of you that, is stuck in the past. For me, I have been able to not forgive my ex-wife, but completely move on and not give a shit and not let it bother me. I've managed to do that because I'm dating someone now. I'm dating the most amazing woman in the whole world, and when I started talking to her, the pain of the past melted away, and I was able to not forgive but move on. And if you can truly forgive and move on, all the more power to you. And I don't know, I'm happy. And I don't spend my days thinking about, my son's 5th birthday. I don't spend my days, oh, woe is me, I'm so sad. And one of the reasons I don't do that is listening to this podcast right now. I'm not going to say your name, but you have changed my life. You have taught me how to be so forgiving. You have taught me how to be patient and how to love again and what warmth feels like. And, hate is always foolish and love is always wise and kind. And if you spend your entire life hating someone, regardless of what they did, it's going to take up a lot of your energy, and it's going to make you there's always going to be some serious unhappiness. And I know that to forgive what happened, and or to forget about what happened, forgive the people that did some horrible things, it's an impossible task. But if you ever manage to do it, it's going to feel amazing. Like, fuck those guys. I'm the boss, man. Just have a good time, Just, such a better place now because of her. She was the one who helped inspire this podcast, really, this episode, because, where'd I be? Where'd I be without her? I'd still be moping around, pissed off, F the world, thinking about my past. I genuinely don't. She has gotten me through. Not through some dark times, but I did not go through them alone. I had family. I had friends who I consider family. And
they listen to me moan and groan and bitch and complain and shit all over their happiness just to try and make me feel better. They would do things, and we'd get tattoos, or we'd eat pizza late at night, or we would play video games, or just drive around listening to loud music. My friend who did that, she was my best friend, and she is my best friend, and she is someone who helped me really get through it. I consider her family. My family, my sister, one of my brothers, they helped me get through a tough time. And it's good to forgive, and it's good to understand, because I never really had much of a relationship with my sister or my brother, any of my siblings really. I had negative experiences, and in my opinion, negative relationships with my youngest two brothers, but not my sister or my oldest younger brother. And when Tyler passed, I just, I became a different person. I think when you lose someone, you become a completely different person. And I think I've become a better person because of that. I have such a good relationship with, I would like to think I have a good relationship with my sister and my brother, and I like to think I have a good relationship with another one of my brothers. Time will tell, it always does. I don't know. I like doing the podcast without the blog because it's more fun for me. But I feel like if I don't do the blog first, I just spend a half hour, 45 minutes just rambling. I'd really like to hear what you prefer, not that the other episodes are scripted, but they had guidelines, they had bullet points, talking points, whatever you want to call them, and I would sit there and I would, blah, 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 this and that. So, hit me up, BorderlineDad, yahoo.com, BorderlineDad.wordpress.com, and just kind of tell me what you think. Should I ramble more? Should I have a set of bullet points? Do a blog first? Should I practice what I preach more? Have you tried this, or are you going to try anything I talked about in this podcast? Do what you want, do what makes you happy. All I'm saying is, no matter how you do it, or what you do, if you stress over someone for years, and that person causes you to go into some deep dark places, do whatever it takes to get out of there legally. Do whatever it takes. Once you get on that other side, oh boy, is it cool. I went to a wedding a while back, and I ended up, meeting two people at the wedding that were not the bride and groom, they were guests. I don't know, maid of honor or best man, I don't know. I never paid attention to that stuff, but they were, I'm better friends now with them than I am with the original bride and groom, I know I'm confusing. I know I'm telling you to forgive and forget, but forgiven, and I know I'm confusing, and I know you're gonna hear cars probably, but I had to get this out there. I love you all. I do. I appreciate you coming back, listening to my ramblings.